How do you prefer your bacon? Burned, crispy, maybe a little floppy, or super duper mopey? Jamie?
Yeah.
Let's go watch She's Having a Baby. Welcome to another episode of Good Times, Great Movies. We're an 80s movie podcast where every other week we watch a different movie from the 80s and then we talk about it. I'm one of your two hosts. My name is Doug McCambridge, and with me as always, pregnant? Body double? Not sure. I noticed that when you're trying to put your bra on, you're standing up, so I feel like a body double came in for those shots. And then later on, when we're just seeing you and Kevin Bacon's decided to touch your belly and face, it's back to being Jamie Lorello.
Well,
so we're...
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Jeez.
It was like, I don't like to give our thoughts away at the beginning of this, and I just had the longest sigh ever on this podcast. But we're here talking about 1988's She's Having a Baby. Mm-hmm. Written and directed by John Hughes.
Yeah, another Hughes baby.
Starring Kevin Bacon, Elizabeth McGovern, Alec Baldwin, and a bunch of John Hughes regulars in this movie.
Yeah, but Mrs. Poole, right? Mrs. Poole is in there.
Of course, Mrs. Poole. She was in Ferris Bueller.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. She was fun. The neighborhood stuff is kind of fun and funny. You mentioned that was the most you could relate to this.
I could relate to it, and it was, I think, the only times in this movie where I was getting genuine, not laughs. Let's not take it that far, but
a little
smiles.
smirk on your face. A little
where I was
smirk
like, all right, well,
yeah.
these are oh, good. They've surrounded Kevin Bacon with comedic actors for a little while. I think I can watch this. Rather than, and it's nothing against Kevin Bacon or Elizabeth McGovern. I really think it's John Hughes' inability to direct people in their 20s after he had success with people in their teens. I don't know what he's trying to write here. If this is his life, if it's like Stephen King so many times writes these books and it's about this struggling writer and his home life isn't good. And I'm this is just about you.
This is a little autobiographical,
yeah,
right?
And early on when Alec Baldwin is I know you want to be a writer. I'm oh no, John Hughes, you're just writing your life and you're kind of fancy myself as a Kevin Bacon type.
I wondered that too. I wondered if this was even the beginning of his relationship with his wife, what it was like, if he really did quit school or, didn't go back for his... Yeah, you wondered how much of it was just him expressing how he felt on, before he had his first kid, but in an extreme John Hughes way. That I know you said that it's not necessarily Kevin Bacon's fault, but I kind of think in some ways, and I can't think of what actor, it's not like I have a replacement actor, but if there was a different actor in that role, it would have played differently, Yes.
He's very mopey. It's just mopey all the time because he can't hit the comedy beats because he's not wacky,
right?
And he's not selling his line delivery. He can't hit any emotional moments. I actually thought his best moments in this movie were playing opposite Alec Baldwin.
Yeah,
when they were in the car at the beginning, it was fine, and later on when Alec Baldwin brings his girlfriend over and they're sitting in the kitchen. I thought that was fine too, but I think it's just because Alec Baldwin's really good.
Yeah. And really good at being a slime ball.
Waving that cow creamer at him while he's talking. And then he's what is this thing? I found that genuinely kind of funny, but it's not Kevin Bacon doing it.
No, it's not. That's where we think we're a little lacking here.
Like you had said earlier, they don't give Elizabeth McGovern much to do.
No, and it's disappointing because she seems ready and able, right? I think
Sure.
that if her character was given a little more fleshed out, that then too we'd enjoy, because even they have that little fight scene after they meet the terrible girlfriend, Alec Baldwin's terrible girlfriend, and they're fighting upstairs, and she is screaming at him, and I kind of like that. But I kind of like it, and that she just doesn't care, and she's what I remember from seeing this movie were a couple of lines. I said one to you at the end of our last podcast when they're eating their fish.
Listen,
and
you
she
said
goes,
the name of a fish.
She says grouper. It's grouper. And there's something else she says where she's like, anywhere but in this room or in this bed. And it's, I don't know, she had more, when she was allowed to, she had more charisma on screen than he did. And he got a lot more screen time.
Kevin Bacon's just like a wet blanket in this movie. And I do like the guy. Like, I think that he is a talented actor, and I've seen him in really great stuff. And this is why I'm trying to blame the material. Maybe I shouldn't be blaming it as much as Kevin Bacon, but yeah, he's such a dud in this movie, and I couldn't stop because we're spending so much time with him, and he's just. And here's the thing that I will say, because I think some of it is, I don't want to speak for you, some of it's my fault for being someone in my 40s now, watching this movie 30 plus years out. Maybe this would have landed at the time, and maybe it would have landed had I been the same age as these characters.
Right.
But looking at this now, I'm just like, I kind of dislike our main character.
Yeah.
So I don't know where to go from there.
Yeah. There, we've given our feelings on the movie, so...
Yeah, right away. Like, we normally sprinkle them through, or we say we don't want to ruin our thoughts, and then we just ruin them by saying, I'm not a big fan of it, but we really went into it here. I got to tell you, a movie that I was shocked that I was thinking about so much during this movie was The Money Pit. And how The Money Pit did such a great job.
Of having a dysfunctional relationship work.
Two people who kind of just got together. Two people who might be slightly older than these characters, but still roughly the same age.
Right.
Just getting used to each other and this new life. And it's funny. And in spots, they seem to genuinely care for each other. Where in this movie, until a baby... spoiler, is born at the end, I was like, I think Kevin Bacon might file for divorce tomorrow.
Yeah. I was convinced that I wasn't, and I had seen it, and I wasn't so uncertain that she wasn't going to go for the pass that Alec Baldwin made. I thought, well, maybe she is. She's like, oh, yeah, I've loved you too, and thanks for finally noticing,
100%. And when she didn't, I was like, what are you doing? Are you seeing what I'm seeing? Because Kevin Bacon, he's like a floppy grouper in that bedroom, and you got Alec Baldwin right here.
Yeah, even with their sweet, awkward little black and white flashbacks that they did to let us know that they've known each other for a while.
I was ready for way more of those than like 2.
Yeah. I'm assuming some of them got cut because the movie. Well, what was it? An hour and 45, was it?
Yeah, hour 45.
Yeah. I'm sure there was more, like just babble bullshit, like flashback stuff.
Yes.
And we kind of have that little lawnmower musical number that I'm glad they kept in because I enjoyed it, but it's very random.
The amount of times that Kevin Bacon breaks from reality makes me think he might have some sort of psychosis.
Yeah, and I want to dive into that so the movie becomes more interesting.
But you're right. Like, why I don't know why these two people are together. Yeah. I don't know.
I don't believe in their love. I don't believe in their love. I don't want him to fight for their love. I don't want them to have a baby. When she stops taking the pill, I'm like, what are you doing? Exactly. You want to bring a child into this relationship? Yeah. No. You two are a hot mess. No.
Because you're right. They had chances to redeem this. That flashback could have been something, but there's no dialogue. They look at each other from across a shitty college basement party.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm supposed to see a connection here? This is supposed to fill in all the gaps in my head of how we got to this wedding and baby in the first place? Because it doesn't.
And the title is She's Having a Baby, but there's no real mention of the having of the baby till we're like 3/4 of the way into the movie is when finally we have she's not taking the pill, the parents are bringing it up. But most of it is about him kind of finding himself in his career and how crappy their marriage is, how hard being married is for them.
Yep. Not them.
Him. Yeah.
This is a Kevin Bacon sob story for the longest time. And I'm like, you promised me a baby in the title of this movie. Where is this baby?
I don't even see a bump. There's not even a bump.
No.
Give me more Lamaze classes. Give me more. I need to be involved in that end of things.
Yes, and I imagine a movie you brought up earlier that I had not seen. I could imagine that 9 months is
it was
that.
Silly and fun with all of it, yeah.
Listen, you get Tom Arnold in, I'm assuming, probably a Hawaiian shirt. I'm sure he's running around doing all sorts of crazy antics. That's what I needed in this movie.
Yes,
Not
I
people
agree.
arguing over, like, should I put a love seat in front of a fireplace? First of all, no, it's a fireplace. It looks gorgeous. Why are you putting furniture in front of that?
Yeah.
It's such a weird. I kind of don't even want to talk about this movie. This movie really upset me.
Because
I had so much trouble just watching it, and that sounds so bad. Like, this is a movie that I'd heard of and I've heard people talk about, and again, it's a John Hughes movie, and maybe I'm expecting too much from this guy, and maybe I need to really lower my standards, and then we can watch Pretty in Pink, and I'll be like, that was really great. I don't know. But let's.
I'm going to transition us into talking about it because it should have given you a clue when our opening credits were the dullest, most boring opening credits. I was like, we could be showing like the whole, the sperm and the egg getting together, or a bunch of babies, or like a Lamaze class, or there's so much footage you could have you could have given me the background on how these two met.
Yes,
and the preparation
show us them
for the
at a
wedding
college
day.
party over these credits.
Over the credits.
I don't need white text on a black screen, and also one name to come up at a time.
Yeah.
After a while, I was like,
boring.
I'm still watching these credits. Yep. Oh, yes. So we're introduced. We know it's a Kevin Bacon movie because this starts with voiceover.
Oh, yeah.
Of Kevin
He's
Bacon,
telling the tale.
Going through the whole family. Like, well, this is my family, and which also comes to nothing. Like, he's like, the men in my family, we're kind of crazy idiots. Maybe I should have known I wasn't going to like him when he said that. But he's like, the women in my family, they kind of keep it all together. And as he's talking about this, we are introduced to family members sitting at a church waiting for a wedding. There's the old guy, again, the old guy from the airport in Home Alone.
Oh,
talking about kids today, blah, blah, blah. Like, kids have no personalities. I don't know what's going on, because even that, I was like, I don't know. Don't start with an old man talking about kids today. If you want me to like your movie and relate to it, don't start this way.
Well, and now the other thing is, both sets of parents, we've talked about the relationship being something, both sets of parents are not happy with this wedding happening.
No.
Nobody is excited. The parents are not excited. It's not even just so the father of the bride's a little disgruntled giving his baby daughter away. No, none of the parents, the moms are even just like, what's what it is.
Yeah.
You just got to put up with it.
And it really is like a weird thing where later in this movie, I'm like, we're clearly not supposed to like the parents. But strangely enough, I'm like, I think they had the right idea.
Yeah.
I think the parents were right from the jump here. These two were not supposed to be together.
No. Why is this big wedding happening? But it is. She is dressed. Her wedding dress is full doily, head to toe. It's just.
She does wear a giant doily to dinner later, which I thought was kind of funny.
Yes, lots of doily inspired wardrobe. It's very bizarre. Now I never experienced this at a wedding, as we talked about, which we get some answers here on your whole do you wear scrubs into the...
Do we though? Because there's a lot that did not happen with the birth of my children. I understand that we're 20 years apart, basically. They wheel her into a different room. I was like, no, they don't. She had the baby in the room. Like, they put you in a room and you have the baby there.
Well,
and then
this
after
was
you have the baby, they put you in like a hospital room with like a hospital bed. But they have like baby rooms, and that's where she was at the beginning. And then they took her into an operating room before they knew there was a problem, which I was like, well, you're doing this out of order.
The bride is apparently ready, but the groom is still... I thought the grooms are supposed to be all lined up and ready at the front, right? He is still in his car, not ready for the wedding. We don't get to see her really kind of walk down the aisle. We more just see them, do exchanging their vows.
Yeah, we don't see her walking down the aisle.
No.
We don't see her friends. We don't get any... We don't get anything but her cranky dad and her personality-less mom.
Yeah, yeah. We do get a whole prayer. It's a Catholic wedding, I think, because we do get lots of prayer time.
Very long. Those Catholics' weddings, man.
Yep.
Those things are... You know you're in for it then. You know
Yeah.
you're sitting there for a long time.
Yeah, you got some time to kill here. But vows are exchanged. In the middle of these vows exchanges when we get our first, what we see happen when Kevin Bacon's character kind of departs from reality for a minute. So all of this, the vows start in. One of the vows is, one of the serious vows is, will you pledge thy troth? What is that?
I don't know what that means because I'm like,
Pledged
oh, you mean a thing
troth?
that you put mortar on bricks with? Like, is that...
I thought a troth was what like a
Pigs
pig
eat
eats out of. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's... I don't. Oh, wait,
Or maybe that's a
I'm thinking of a
trough.
trowel. I'm thinking of a trowel.
Okay,
And you're
okay.
thinking of a trough. I don't know what a trough is, or maybe it's with a TH, and
I'm
it's
not
something
sure.
I've never heard of.
I'm not
No.
sure. The vows, even when they were the real vows, were confusing to me. And then they go into this spiral of vows that aren't real. Like, will you always
Right.
promise to tell her she looks nice and always be patient and pay for the minivan and the mortgage and
Right. And sometimes you come home with flowers, and
Yes.
you know, comfort her if she's having a bad day. It really is like a. You know what the problem with marriage is? Women.
Yes!
Guys, am I right?
Yes!
Like, this movie. At one point in this movie, I was like, so wait a second. Women don't like to have sex? Am I learning this now? Is John Hughes teaching me something that women get
giving you
no
the what
pleasure or
for, yeah.
enjoyment from sex whatsoever? All right. Okay. Noted, I guess. This movie has some very bizarre messages in it. But there's just a couple things I do want to touch on that you kind of went, and I know we talked about this movie for a half hour beforehand for our patrons. You say he's out in the car. He's out in the car with his best friend, Alec Baldwin.
Right.
And Alec Baldwin's really like giving him an out. Like,
yeah.
You say the word, dude, and we're off. Don't worry. You know, she'll understand.
You talked about his dreamy eyes, and
Oh,
for a minute, he's almost like seducing Kevin Baldwin.
Yes.
Or Kevin Bacon, sorry, combining the two. He's like, we can run off together. We could just leave right now, and we don't even have to do this.
Jamie, if they kissed in this movie, it would not have surprised me.
No.
Either here or later. I would not have been shocked if this kind of took an almost like Chasing Amy turn where he's like,
yeah,
I don't know, I guess we could do a threesome with your wife or something. Like, I would not have been all that surprised if that happens, because these are very, and I know it's a movie, but these are very like, I love you so much. You're my best friend. And I miss like conversation. I'm not saying these conversations do not happen between friends.
Yeah.
I'm sure they do. Just because I've never been involved in one doesn't mean it doesn't happen. But it really got kind of intense at times. And I was interested in this movie during those moments because I felt
But it didn't
more of a
deliver.
connection between these two characters
Yeah.
than he and his future wife, I
Yeah,
guess.
I agree. We see a lot of chemistry flowing between these two, and then we go into the
And-
chapel and.
Right, but also, real quick, during the vows, we also see
Oh, the eye
Elizabeth
exchange.
McGovern
Yeah.
making eyesies with Alec Baldwin. Which,
That's why later on when he comes in on her, you're like, maybe there was like a romance there that we didn't talk about, and that's substantial. But yeah.
Oh, Well, how interesting that you would say it's possibly substantial, but because it has to do with Elizabeth McGovern, it's never brought up.
Ignored.
Like
Yeah.
when they're almost making out, I was like, can't someone just mention their past? Or can't Alec Baldwin just bring up there was that one night?
Well,
he
see, I
does
couldn't
say something
decide.
like, you're the only one I ever loved. And
Yeah.
I'm like, you skipped like 8 steps in this conversation.
Yeah, like
that
where
I
did you
wanted
guys
to
have a
happen.
relationship first? I do like her response to that when she's like, "No, you're the only one you've ever loved." But so I wondered if the tension was because between them was because they had something in the past, which again I
Yes.
would have liked to see some of or get to know a little bit of, or if the tension
Yes.
was because it was like she was taking him away from his friend. But we don't get the
yes.
idea that, like, I mean, we don't like the Kevin Bacon character necessarily. We don't necessarily like him, but we don't get the idea that he's as swarmy as the Alec Baldwin character. You know what I
No.
mean? Like,
But like you said, like I needed, and not that we need more in this movie, but it's almost like I needed, when Alec Baldwin comes out with that, I'm going to call her a floozy.
Yeah,
That's
she was,
insulting,
yeah,
but whatever.
but, yeah.
And they're talking at the table. I needed Alec Baldwin to be like, listen, there was a time at college. Listen,
Oh,
she
yeah.
had not met you yet.
Yeah.
But she and I got together. Like, I just needed something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kevin Bacon to confront her about it or whatever, and her to be like, listen, we hadn't met yet. It was no big deal. That would explain the church looks. That would explain what happens later.
the awkward
but it's
tension
never
between them. Yeah,
explained.
no,
Yes.
no, and it would have made it things a little more interesting in the dynamics of the whole relationship, and would have
Could you-
explained some of the tension. Kevin Bacon's character could have repeatedly kept bringing it up, like he brings up
Yes.
the tension between the parents. You know, he could have been like,
Exactly.
and I can't really trust you with, you know, and oh, were you jealous of the floozy she brought? You know, he brought or whatever. And that, like you said, they don't get into
You
that.
said something there. Could you even imagine if this movie was interesting? Could you imagine? Because that was the biggest thing I got out of this is I'm not interested in anything I'm seeing
No,
right now.
no. Well,
All right, so they do get married, and we get some, dialogue while they're going on their honeymoon. They got married their senior year of college. That's a big...
not advised.
Young listeners, I am not trying to tell you what to do with your life, but
No.
take some time at least.
Well, and they don't really, he says this, they don't really go on a honeymoon away. They go,
Right.
they drive cross country to New Mexico where he is, she convinces him to get his master's degree, to go back to school. So
Yes.
they skip the honeymoon, which again, young listeners, I don't recommend that either. Take a honeymoon, dang it.
Yeah, take vacations when you can. Don't assume like, oh, we could do all this when we're older, when our kids
YOLO.
are gone, when we retire. You could die. You don't know what's going to happen.
You only live once, friends. Anyway, there's a little nuggets of wisdom from DP and Jamie.
That's right. Yeah.
Relationship advice, we've got it on this podcast too.
Yep. You might not want to take it, but we'll give it to you.
You can listen to it. So he is miserable in everything. Like he's not exactly excited about being married, and he doesn't like grad school, and she's really doing her best to make things work. And he tells her pretty much while they're living out there in their cute little New Mexico apartment, like, yeah, I don't think I want to do this. And what was his major? They talk about what his major was.
Oh, it's adorable. It's his major was advanced languages, but he did have a minor in Elizabethan poetry, which is really great. Like that's a fun thing.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't want to say like it's a very 80s thing to laugh at, but nowadays, I don't know. Like I worked with people that did the same job as I did and had insane degrees in all sorts of disciplines.
Yeah.
Employers are kind of like, I don't know, could you get out of school in 4 to 5 years? We'll hire you. Like,
Well, that's what ends up happening.
You have your shit together enough to study for tests, so I guess come aboard.
We could come on. So he when he first quits grad school, he again, we have a weird flashback where he talks about not working on the docks. This is the Grandpa Flashback, right?
Wow.
It doesn't happen enough. We're not consistent with this. I would have loved to see little flashbacks where he as a boy is getting this advice throughout the movie from his grandfather about being a man. And that when he has these moments...
In this flashback, it appears that Kevin Bacon grew up in the 1910s. Like, this is...
He's like a Benjamin Button type of guy or something.
Yes, exactly. There's literally one of those wind-up cymbal monkeys on the floor of this palatial estate in front of a roaring fire with his grandfather in like a
upon his grandfather's lap.
Jacket.
Yeah.
Right, yes. I'm surprised he wasn't wearing one of those like Bob Cratchit stocking caps.
It wasn't quite the evening yet. We're still early in the day.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I had closed captions on, because please don't get a 7-year-old to deliver this much dialogue. I couldn't understand most of what this kid was saying.
But basically, it's a conversation between his grandfather and him, and his grandfather saying, like, you don't want to work on the docks. You need to go to college and get your master's degree. And
exactly.
Yeah. And so, flash forward, Kevin Bacon has quit his grad school and is working at a dock job. Is only
what is
brief.
This job? What
he's
what is this
typing
job?
articles for the dock?
Warehouse?
I don't know.
Typing on a typewriter?
And I couldn't understand, because was this a job that his father got for him? How did he, what? I don't understand.
His father or his father-in-law or whatever.
I don't know.
Because there's also conversations before this where he's like, well, you're not going to get a job. You're not going to work. Because she's like, I am so bored. I guess she's hanging around this tiny apartment all day cooking multiple types of fish.
I love that
she doesn't have a job.
She gives him
He won't let her
lunch.
go to school. It seems very bizarre.
I agree.
Again, she can't get what she wants. And the only time she kind of decides what she wants is a baby, and has to trick him into having a baby.
Yeah.
I was like, that's really that's a terrible thing to do to somebody. But also I'm like, you know what? If she mentioned a baby to him, I don't think he'd be on.
Well, look what he does. He's got that vision of himself exploding like a speed bullet train or something. Oh,
well, now we move on to dinner with her parents.
The parents, yeah.
And this is where we are told that they've been married for 2 years. Mm-hmm. I'm like, wow, how is time working in this?
Well, now they've moved back. They were in New Mexico. He tried to go to grad school. He must have got some other job. And now they've moved back and they bought a house, right? Do we already see them buy the house?
No.
And start fixing it up?
No, we see that after he gets the job with the principal from the Breakfast Club.
Yes.
No, this is just right now her parents are like, you're aimless. I can't believe she's working because you're such a bum.
Yeah.
And
the dad is pretty harsh on him. Yeah.
Oh, the mom's just sitting there. Mm-hmm. I'm so surprised it's not like every time we saw her, she was drinking or something like that.
Yeah,
it seems like that would be just another thing to pile on.
Interesting. That would have made it interesting.
Wouldn't that have been interesting? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he has visions of them around a trash can fire in an alley, and he's burning his book. Blah, blah, blah. It's whatever. So this is where they finally start to get their act together, because he decides to apply for a real job somewhere.
Well, he applies at an advertising company, but at the interview we find out they kind of come at him, and
it really was something where I was like, did these guys seriously make time in their day just to beat this kid up for lying on his resume?
But they do. They find out he's completely lied on his entire resume. Said he worked at a company that's like a sister company to theirs, so they know he didn't really work there. His whole resume, they say, is a total lie. But after ripping him apart, they kind of respect that about him. Yeah. And so they're going to hire him anyway.
This, again, it's like, oh, these are kind of fun actors hanging around with Kevin Bacon when he's like, you're full of shit, aren't you? And he's like, yep, I'm totally full of shit. I love it when he goes, how do you feel about slave wages?
Oh, yeah.
And he goes, I'm fine with that. And then he goes, how do you feel about alcoholics? And he goes, I love alcoholics. I kind of like, there were times in this movie, and we're not too far into the movie yet, where I'm like, okay, this could pick up. This could become something. Yeah. And then later on, I was like, oh, these are just funny moments that happen every 20 minutes or so, and that's it.
And then they fizzle into, like, blah. Yeah.
Yeah, because we get a lot of this movie takes place in Kevin Bacon's head. Mm-hmm. And in this one, he's in an office that gets smaller and smaller.
Oh, right.
Kind of like a Being John Malkovich thing. Remember in that movie, there was like, they worked on like the 8.5 floor.
Yeah.
That's what this kind of reminded me of. As he's sitting at his desk, the walls kind of close in on him because, isn't it terrible to be a guy? Isn't it terrible to be a guy in this
He's got to
country?
take the train to work every day.
Where? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, this is where I wrote my notes. This movie is just two depressed 20-somethings picking fights with one another.
They are, because this is now when they are in their house, their new house.
Yep.
And they're fighting about the furniture placement. They're fighting about their parents. He says he would do anything for them. They're his flesh and blood, and that kind of upsets her. She's like, well, then what am I? I'm going to chop liver?
They have newspapers that are taped together to the size of couches
the furniture.
and tables to kind of plan this out.
At first I was like, are they getting ready to paint? Or
No,
but no,
yeah,
it's
that's
the
what I was thinking
layout.
too.
Yeah.
Oh, also, does she drive him to the train station every morning just so they can smooch?
And that's the weird thing. So they fight a lot, and we don't really see him. And then all of a sudden, they're making out passionately at the train station, and she's like, "I'm going to miss you today." But you don't see the in between. You don't see at the very end when he has that sad flashback when he thinks she doesn't know what happened to her. And she's given birth or whatever, and you see that flashback of them painting the house and running in the rain. I'm like, where were these moments this whole movie?
Jamie, that was one thing. And you know what's really bad? You painted that as a negative, and you're right. It's a negative. In my notes, I put it as a positive because I was so glad they just weren't showing us scenes that we saw before.
Oh, yeah.
But you're right, because we saw no scenes of them having
enjoying
good
each
time
other. Yeah,
together.
No.
It really is like there was a secret movie going on the whole time that we just didn't see.
Of this
where they
joyful
had a good
couple.
relationship.
Yeah. But what we're seeing is they're fighting all the time, and now we're seeing them. This is fun. The neighborhood hangs is fun because it's not just the two of them. It's like you said, Kevin is talking to the neighbors, and it's all about lawnmowers. And when she's talking to the ladies, one of which is Mrs. Poole, who is she talks about the little cross-eyed boy with the impetigo.
Yep,
that's so funny.
It's great because
it's very
these
real.
are our main characters surrounded by very funny character actors.
Yes,
just riffing. Like I really think some of them are just going off script and having fun.
They were just doing a little improv. Yeah.
It's really great. Mm-hmm. I do like how the one guy, John Aston, we saw him. He was in Some Kind of Wonderful. He played the kid's dad in that. But how he's talking to the other guy about how he lets his hose lay out in the sun.
Oh,
and it gets
the argument about the hose, and it burns his dog.
He burns it, yes. I did think that was really funny, too. Especially later how his wife yells at him for burning the dog. I was like, all right, these are bits of levity in this movie that
much needed,
are sorely needed, and don't come from our main players.
No. Next, we have the little bit of tension in the movie, so that was fun meeting the neighbors. This is the big when we meet the neighbors. Oh no, this is not the cute neighborhood where all the tables.
Oh, the dancing?
Out. Yeah, no.
Oh, that's later.
That's later. Yeah,
that's
but
when
now
I think he really he might be a schizophrenic. Like when he sees this happening. I was like, oh, I'm kind of worried for
You're really detached from reality. Like the Italian girl, I'm not sure if she's real.
Oh,
but
I would almost guarantee you she's not real. I was waiting for that reveal in this movie for her to just be not real or just like almost like a almost like a vampire's kiss when he assaults her on the dance floor. And she's like, yeah, I met you once, dude, but what's going on here? Yeah. That was really weird. That whole thing was really weird. I love how we watch a sex stream where he doesn't even have sex. All right.
Well, before he meets his Italian little lady, Alec Baldwin comes into town
Yes.
from New York. Now we know they've been married for 4 years, I think, or maybe it's still 2. Alec Baldwin makes some reference to they haven't seen you since we're married, and you're married for X amount of years. Alec is there with his girlfriend. Is she wearing?
Yep.
Is that a
Go ahead.
watch around her ankle, or is it a?
It looked like a belt, like a tiny belt to me.
I wasn't sure
Yeah.
if she was under like house arrest, like it was one of those little
It
things.
did
that they
look like an
wear,
ankle
right? I
brace,
was
like a
wait,
monitor. Yeah. No,
This
no,
is a
but
whole
it was like a
interesting
calf-
exchange.
It was like a calf belt. I don't really know what's going on here. And also, I think it's important for our viewers to know how quickly we're going through this, because this is more than 40 minutes into this movie. And right before this scene, I said to myself, isn't Alec Baldwin third billed in this? Like, we have not seen him since The Wedding.
Well, mind you, there's been she's having a baby. There's no mention of a baby so far.
No. That's just to get you in the door. And you're like, where's this baby movie I was supposed
What the
to be
heck?
seeing?
I thought she was all about making a family. No. So Alec Baldwin is visiting his girlfriend. He lives in New York, and they talk about, this is kind of real, where people from New York or LA are like, oh, I love LA, or oh, I love New York, and they hate Chicago or whatever. And Kevin Bacon's kind of into it, like, yeah, I love LA too. And
Yeah.
Elizabeth's like, you've never even been there, like, what do you even know? Or his wife. And you could see Alec Baldwin's still kind of arrogant, and the girl is, like you said, she's, for lack of a better term, she's a bimbo. She said she's in some video, and he's like, what do you do? Are you in a band? She's really rude to him. She's like, no. And he's like, well, what did you do? And she, like, licks like a bottle?
Like a glass.
Like a glass, and basically that's what she does in a G-string in her video.
I actually found
understand.
this pretty funny when she's like, that's what I do.
Yeah.
But MTV rejected the video because of the nudity. And
Yeah.
She goes, I was wearing a G-string. And I love Kevin Bacon, again, probably his best part of this movie is just his reactions to this woman talking,
Yeah,
where he's like,
yeah. He's so excited.
I can't believe they reject nudity. I can't. You were in a G-string. Are you listening to this, honey? Can you believe this?
And she is not having it. His wife is pissed, as she should be. She's like, what the hell? My husband is drooling over this slutty girl. And
Yeah. Also, I don't want to put this on this, newly married, sorry, they've been married for 2 years, couple. But, like, this was their plan, was to sit on opposing couches and talk.
Yeah,
like,
there's no dinner
go
been
to
made.
a restaurant or
Yeah.
something.
Or at least serve them dinner or drinks or something.
Just sitting there with nothing. It appears
Yeah.
that Kevin Bacon is the only one drinking Diet Coke.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because he's like, it's diet. Is that okay? They mentioned this girlfriend character only gets worse. Besides that, she's she also says she's in town for her mother's funeral, but she could basically care less about it when they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. She's like, yeah, you and Neiman Marcus. And this is all just more points are deductive off of Elizabeth Montgomery's list for why this girl is worth her time. But they say that they're staying at a hotel, and Kevin Bacon opens his big fat mouth and is like, you need to stay here.
Right, yeah.
Now we flash forward, because apparently that conversation was had, and like you said, because this couple had no plans to really entertain their guests for tonight, they go to bed early, I guess.
When we go back to Alec Baldwin and her still sitting on the couch, I was like, oh, they haven't moved. Like,
No, and I
they
guess
really
these
didn't
two
go to
just at
bed
some
early.
point excused themselves, just said, well, we're going to go to bed. And while they are upstairs getting ready for bed, you're not sure. You're like, so did they accept the offer to spend the night?
Yep.
Because Elizabeth Montgomery starts screaming at him, saying, like, I can't believe you would invite them over. She's
At
a
the
terrible
top
person.
of her lungs.
Yeah, she's screaming.
Like, I don't think you can emphasize that. This is yelling where I was like, well, clearly these people are not in this house.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
if they accepted the offer, they went back to the hotel to get their things.
Yes, and
that's
this
why
is when she's
yelling
expressing
like
herself.
this.
Right. He even says at one point, like, you're saying all this stuff and they're here. And she's like, I don't care if they're going to hear me.
Right. And she's also like, and also, you're not sleeping in this room.
Yeah.
You're not sleeping in this bed. Get out. And then we flash back to Alec Baldwin and his girlfriend. And I love how the girlfriend is like, boy, she's got a set of lungs on her, huh?
Yeah.
It's like, What, how are, you two are still just
So
sitting
they're
on
just
this
sitting there and
couch.
listening. They're just sitting there and listening. Then we have a little, I guess that Alec decides to just leave his girlfriend on the couch. And we have a little best friend chat.
Well, no, they're in a spare room. We see them having sex in just a few minutes.
No, but first he's got this little talk he has with...
No, yeah, right, because Kevin Bacon's not allowed to sleep in the bedroom,
Right.
so yeah, they sort of end up in the kitchen. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. And they have a little heart-to-heart with the... you had mentioned the little ceramic milk...
Yeah, it's like
Foul
a
thing.
Again, not a nice heart to heart, but it really is Alec Baldwin being like, man, you want to write? You should be in New York. Like, that's the place to be. He's like, we could be two cool dudes tearing it up in New York right now, but you had to get married.
Cool and crazy dudes. And he tells him, you're not happy, I can tell, and this is not the right life for you, and it basically he also tells him that his wife is drowning him, that she's pulling him down, that he could be a writer, he could have a different life if he wasn't with her. And Kevin Bacon's like, you know what, there's more to life than getting laid. Like, again, he's making an argument that he loves Elizabeth Montgomery, but we're not buying it because they don't seem happy.
And I totally, first of all, you should never talk your friend out of any sort of relationship they're in. And you and I have probably been in this situation where you have a friend who's seeing somebody that you don't like, but you're not going to say anything while they're still with that person.
Yeah.
But Alec Baldwin saw him hemming and hawing on his wedding day, hasn't seen him in 2 years, and you saw that display on the couch and then what was going on in the bedroom. Like, Alec Baldwin is 100% kind of right on with everything he's saying right now based on what he has seen.
What he's witnessed here. Like you said, Kevin Bacon cannot sleep in his room, so he sleeps on the floor, and he does get a little sneak peek of his buddy just having sex and with the door open in his house.
It is fun when he says to Alec Baldwin, like, do you have feelings for her? And he's like, oh, God, no.
Yeah.
And I hope she doesn't have feelings for me either. That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Also, did you assume they were now at this club with Alec Baldwin?
I did.
Because why were they there
Why?
otherwise?
Well, I wish we had a little better lead up to that, where maybe he's telling her, like,
don't
let's
go
go try
anywhere.
new things.
We don't do anything. Maybe we should go and try and have fun.
Like
Something.
they have a post, like a makeup fight almost from the time that Alec came over, and he's like, I think we don't need to move to New York. We just need to go out and do things more. We're still young. Let's go to this new club.
Yeah, there's like a scene missing because you don't introduce these New York movers and shakers, and then we go to a club.
Yeah.
And they're not around without some sort of discussion.
And even at the club, you see her, like, again, she's kind of like a good wife would be, like, kind of into, like, okay, my husband clearly wants to go here. He's like, I love the beer, and it's a good vibe, and cheap
He's
beer.
like, I paid $3 for this.
Yeah.
I'm so happy about that.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're almost crying.
She's got
Can
her
we
glass.
stop?
Yeah, exactly. She's got her glass of wine, and she's just like content to kind of people watch. Okay, this is what he wants.
fine.
We'll do this on a Thursday night or whatever, Friday night. I don't know what night they went, but he at this club.
I don't know what night. You're like, I didn't see a calendar in the background with a date circled. So I don't know what day of the week it is. He does have to get up early to go to work in the morning.
He at this club, he makes eyesies at a girl from across the way, standing right next to his wife. He makes eyesies with this girl. Then he goes off to the bathroom, not
She
knowing.
looks just like Julie Delpy. Like, that's who I kind of thought it was. Until I was like, no. This movie's too old for her.
Yeah, no.
Like those, what are those movies she's in with Ethan Hawke? All those, like, before sunset, before midnight, before, all of those. Like, she had that look about her, and then she spoke, and I went, maybe this woman's French, maybe this woman's not. I'm not sure. She's totally French. I did look her up, and she didn't have much of a career. I was, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying I was surprised, but
well, he takes a little potty break, and not knowing she's gonna follow, and she does. He's doing some kind of dance move, shaking it off, whatever you do in the bathroom urinal. And she comes in, but he doesn't make a move. he clearly gets a little excited that she's come into the bathroom for him, but she's just fixing her makeup, powdering her nose, and she moves on the way, but makes quite an impression because he has a dream that night.
Yeah, I do want to mention that I think I really beat up the writing in this movie, and I'm really, taking it out on John Hughes. And maybe the more I talk, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe it's Kevin Bacon's fault. Because the line here is pretty funny, and with another more comedic actor, it would have been great when she says, "Do you come here a lot?"
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, "Well, I mean, I was here earlier, but I have been having a lot to drink." And she's like, "No, I'm not talking about the bathroom."
I came here, yeah.
And I'm just like, "Oh, Kevin Bacon kind of fumbled that. Like, that could have actually been funny."
It didn't hit right. Yeah, it didn't. I agree.
Yeah, he has a dream. He hears somebody breaking into the house. He arms himself with a golf club. I gotta say, Jamie, I got a golf club under my bed, too.
Do you?
Yes.
All right, you're ready.
Like I said, the lawnmower conversation where he's bored with that, and maybe the golf club were the only times in this movie
Relatable.
I actually felt some sort of connection, or that he was a real person. Basically, we find out that it's just this clumsy, sexy girl came into his house and knocked over snow shovels, all sorts of stuff. I don't even know if they make out or anything. And
she does this whole, again, it's a dream that he's in, but she gives him this whole dialogue about, we're meant to be together. That's why I'm here. And this is all a sign. And they get a little hot and heavy, but no, they never actually kiss. He says something like, "Oh, we're about to." And that's when Elizabeth Montgomery
walks
says,
downstairs, and she's like, "Hey, you're dreaming again." And as if we didn't know. I like this scene because now he's at work with the guy that he works with. I guess it's his boss. And his boss has the longest conversation with him, where the point of the conversation is, "Hey, guess what, dude? Life fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Just get used to it."
Yeah. Again, another depressing part of the movie. It's not even a little, well, I guess
it's all depressing.
Yeah. Yeah, but he basically tells him, like, I had the same plans as you. I was going to be a writer. I took a year off to do it, and I just got overweight, and I watched a lot of shows, and so I begged for my job back, and now here I am. Yep. And you got to stop wanting things. It's not about wanting things. It's just being satisfied with what you get. And very depressing sort of outlook that Kevin Bacon's kind of like, well, nah, that's still not going to be me. But it still sort of scares him, jars him up a little bit.
Oh, I think we have to talk about this night, because this is the night where Kevin Bacon, he's gearing up to have sex, I think.
Yeah.
By talking to himself in the mirror and saying, "You want to have sex?" Your wife's right in the bathroom. The door's actually open. She can clearly hear you and see everything that's going on. Then he talks to a picture of his wife's father.
Yeah.
And is like, "The things I'm going to do to your daughter."
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, this is very bizarre. And the whole time, he's running around in the tightest, stripiest underpants.
Tightest little whiteies. And he's got some sort of like mouth spray that he's spraying in his mouth and on his crotch.
He's flossing in bed. Don't do that.
There's this, and I don't know what she is doing. He spends this whole time, and again,
she's staring at birth control pills the whole time.
Exactly. Yes. Played by a different actor. This is fun. He's fumbling around getting ready to get laid, and she's in the room contemplating whether she's going to take her next pregnancy pill or not. And it's a whole slow motion, weird angle where she drops it and it almost goes in the sink, and then she pushes it all the way in the sink. And he's just thinking like, and he's, I think, even saying to her like, "Hey, I'm really tired tonight, so don't even think about anything. I'm just going to go right to bed. Had a long day."
But also we get voiceover where he's like, "The worst idea if you want to have sex is to pretend that you're too tired to have sex. So I guess that's what I'm doing." Like, nothing makes sense. One other moment that I thought was funny, he's got these barbells that he's lifting, and he's hurting himself. When she walks out and the lights are off, she like stubs her toe and picks them both up with one hand, puts them in the closet. So I did find that pretty funny.
I did like too, because he sprayed all this Banaka everywhere. She was like coughing and opening the window. She's like, But then in her, now she's not even dressed, not that she needs to be dressed sexy or anything, but she is in one of her doily PJs, and she
doiliest of PJs.
Yes.
She's the one that should be wearing one of those giant nightcaps.
Yes, I think yes. And while he's pretending to sleep, like you said, he does another voiceover. Like, I couldn't believe, is this something a woman wants? She's coming for me. Like,
yeah, he was like, for the first time ever, she initiated sex. And I was like, are you that terrible at sex, Kevin Bacon? Like, you must be the worst.
Yeah.
Like, it was such a bizarre thing to write and to put in a movie that isn't just, like, I could see this if it was some sleazy comedy that a bunch of, college dudes are going to go to together and that's it. But you're selling this movie to adult men and women.
Yeah.
And so to put something like this in your movie, it seems weird now. I can't imagine it wasn't dumb then.
Yeah.
But at least we get a montage of sexy ladies working in a factory.
That's random, too. It's in lieu of a sex scene.
What was that?
That's in lieu of a sex scene. We get to see these women in, like, a, I don't know, industrial area working out in the heat.
Yep.
I don't know.
We're supposed to be laughing, and I'm going, what is happening?
Yeah, me too. Well, and then what happens next? He goes outside of his neighborhood. He's starting his day. We get to see some guy with a fancy bike, and then we get the musical, the neighborhood dance routine with the lawnmowers and the...
Who is this guy dressed in an Italian flag who rides a bike? Like,
Again,
we've never been introduced to this character.
That's another thing. It would have been funny if, like, he's driven by jealousy, and she talks about the neighbor, the Italian neighbor who bikes rides all the time, and, that's something that... And no. We just meet him, and then it busts into some kind of neighborhood musical with all these...
Jamie, please don't undersell this. It's a synchronized lawn mowing dance routine, which is kind of amazing. Again, inserted in almost any other movie, I think would be possibly better.
Yeah,
you
I
put this
agree.
in Can't Stop the Music, I am on board.
It's a ton of fun. By this point, you're like, what's happening? What is happening?
Yeah.
Why are we back in the neighborhood? I thought we already met all these lawn mowing freaks. What's
right?
Now they're all doing a number. What?
Yeah, I was like, Kevin Bacon's breaks from reality are becoming more frequent.
Yeah.
We just saw sexy ladies in a factory a moment ago, and now we have to see this dance routine.
Now we have a dance routine. But now we have him. He's got both parents over for dinner. And he's grilling steaks, right? Am I missing anything after the dance?
No,
routine?
you're not missing anything. And I think it's fun because Kevin Bacon still seems to be riding this high that his wife wanted to have sex with him. I don't know how many days ago.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
He is still on cloud nine. He's flipping steaks. He's burning them. He's dropping them in the grass. He doesn't care. He is all smiles until they all sit down to have dinner and babies become a conversation
But
starter.
it's so intense. The dad starts out, of course, her dad is always just really rude and picking on him. Talks about how terrible the steaks are. Then they get going on, like, why don't you have any kids? And there is a little bit of opposition. I think it's his father that's like, why do we have to rush them? This needs to be their decision. It's like opposite. Like, but then his mom is like, but it would be nice. Meanwhile, her mom is like, yeah, let's let them do it. Her mom says, I had a terrible birth when it came to her. I had a birth delivery. I almost died. Like, it's fine to me if they wait because it's a dangerous thing. And her husband doesn't even care. He's like, yeah, I was golfing when that happened. Anyway, the guys at my work have grandkids pictures.
He really is like, well, you're here now.
Yeah.
You're not
He literally
dead.
says that. He literally says, but you're sitting here, so there's that.
Again, like, this movie wants to have it both ways in that they do present our main character as kind of a douche, for lack of a better word. But then with these parents, it's like, oh, aren't the women so reasonable and the men seem to be the crazy ones? I'm like, I don't know what you're doing here, movie. I really don't.
I don't know the message you're trying to give me, but I'm not following it. So there's an intense dinner with the parents where it's really just a bombardment of, when are you having a baby? Why aren't you having a baby? What's wrong with you guys? There's no baby. And
is Elizabeth McGovern's dad wearing dog tags around also?
He might be.
I think he is. It doesn't. I don't understand why. They're very tight too. They're like
Around
It's like
his
a
neck.
choke chain with dog tags.
They have a little pillow talk then at the end of the night.
Right.
And she's like, are you mad? Are you mad? Are you mad? And he's like, no, it's fine. It's whatever. I just don't want to talk about it right now.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, well, do you ever think about having a kid? And he says something like, you mean like life ends? Or like something basically saying like, I don't think kids are my jam. Or at least not right now. And she's like, well, can I tell you something?
Yeah.
But don't get mad at me. Because it's pretty insane.
I mean, that goes on for so long where she's like, promise me you won't be mad. Well, I don't know. No, you have to promise me that you're not going to be mad.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
move on.
She knows what she's going to deliver. She tells him that she hasn't been taking her pill for 3 months now. And then he has another moment where he has a flash where he's exploding into a train or some kind of
why not
crazy. Now here's the diaper ad, right? Is this where he holds the baby for the
Is
diaper
this
ad?
when a photographer from the future shows up this guy? Like, this guy looks like he came from 100 years in the future to take pictures with his facial hair and giant black trench coat.
You're like, who are you? Yeah.
This guy's amazing. And Kevin Bacon is modeling with a baby.
And why?
They're
Because
selling
Kevin
diapers.
Bacon wrote the jingle for the diapers. Now he's also in
I
the
don't
commercial.
know. Because his boss sits there and goes, we all have to do this. And in my head, I was like, wait, you all have to pose with this baby?
This is
Why are
weird.
you
Yeah, this
doing
is so
this?
weird.
But I guess he just means, listen, I worked at I don't want to call it an ad agency, but I'll call it an ad agency to make it seem like I'm cooler.
Mm-hmm.
And we would sometimes have to go in the photo studio to do product shots or model shots, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And occasionally, if we weren't going to hire models, we would have to model,
Mm.
especially if it was just like, I don't know, you just put this in your hand and we'll take a picture. Like, you don't need to bring in a hand model for something like that.
Right.
So I kind of understand it. It's cheap, and I could see if it's a small company. But the way they talked about this company, it's a gigantic corporation.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I don't. Well, and then where are they? Are they in some kind of a studio where only ladies are like they can't find the mom to the baby, but there are all just women that look
There
like.
appears to be a fashion show going on.
Yes, I was going to say
down the
that
hall.
look like models and actresses just filing up and back and through these halls and into all of them into one of the same dressing room.
That's what I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, wait, can't you have one of these sexy ladies hold this baby?
Yeah,
Why
yeah.
is Kevin Bacon doing this?
And why now Kevin can't find the mother, but has gone looking for the mother and finds himself staring at all of these women obnoxiously in the dressing room while
This
holding
turns
the baby.
into a movie about an abandoned baby for
Yeah.
quite a while.
Yeah.
I was shocked by how much time we spent running up and down hallways with him carrying a baby.
And again, this could have been another silly where the baby maybe has an accident on him, or you know what I mean? They
Right.
could have played this him having his first experience with a baby up, but instead it turns into him looking for the baby's mama and now finding this foreign girl from the club, and
Maybe.
Yeah.
Again, I doubt
I
she's
know,
real.
is this a vision?
I doubt she's there.
I don't know.
I
don't
You're
know.
right. Why don't they have the baby throw up on him?
Yeah.
Why don't they this is the most content baby on the
Oh,
planet
yeah.
that he's running down the hall with. Time and time again. There's no tension. There's nothing, again, interesting happening here. We just have to spend time watching Kevin Baby not quite know how to hold a baby.
Kevin Baby.
I called him Kevin Baby.
Kevin Baby. Oh, Kevin Baby. Why don't you know how to hold a bacon? He does, whether it's a figment of his imagination or not. He meets with the model or the foreign lady at the museum. Right. They have a conversation where she's like, he says that he loves his wife, and she's like, why are you here with me then? And he's like, well, I don't know. And she says, that's your problem. You don't know what you want. Kind of hits home to him. He like takes a minute, and he's like, Jesus, do I know what I want? Now he rides the train all night, I guess, and chain smokes.
Just 1 sec. Can we just say, just very quickly, 1 second?
Yeah.
This woman, this girl of his dreams, this whatever. He says he's married, and she's like, well, you know what? I used to be married too. It didn't work out, blah, blah, blah. goodbye, movie. I'm going to leave now and never show up again.
Because, again, I don't think she was real. I think she was just meant to tell him, like, He's such a weird, like,
Alec Baldwin. See Alec Baldwin.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll come back a little bit later on. See ya, imaginary girl. Goodbye. These are these are ideas and concepts and plot points that you set up in your movie that you never pay off.
We don't finish off with it. We don't. Because we don't see her again. We don't mention her again.
Also, we talk about a Dr. Stanky that we never meet. If you introduce a character with the name of Stanky, I want to meet this guy. I want to see what this guy looks like.
Oh, yeah. Is this one? So, well, first he goes home. This is awkward. I think you would know. If Carla is asleep, whether you have come home from a shady night out or just a night out or just downstairs watching a movie and you're going to bed.
I'm meeting women at the Natural History Museum. Sure, right.
However your schedule works out. When you go home and she is at rest, do you try to undress right there at the side of the bed in front of her?
Yeah, I mean, first I turn on all the lights.
Yeah, exactly.
No! What kind of maniac would do this? First of all, you've already told us you have an adjoining bathroom, so at the very least go in there.
He's got a huge house. Take the clothes off in another room and then bring the whatever. I was watching him do this and like, what the fuck, dude? She does wake up at some point and she says she went to her doctor and she's like, I'm good. I'm not the problem. I can't get, and he's like, you must be the problem. You haven't been pregnant. We've been trying. She's like, I'm not the problem. You're the problem. And now it becomes a thing at first. Again, he's such a dick, this character.
Yes.
Because he's like, if it has to do with my penis, I don't want anybody poking at it. Now, what is this coat? They go grocery shopping together. What is this coat he's wearing at the grocery store? Did you notice this?
No, I did not.
It's like a giant cardigan sweater. I'm not sure. It's clearly winter in Chicago.
Oh, wait, no, I know what you're saying. Yes, I think it is. It does kind of look like a gigantic sweater. Yeah, it looks like a trench coat that's a sweater.
I mean, cute that they're going grocery shopping together. Again, this could have had little funny moments where, when the married couples are grocery shopping and they have the arguments over what to get. And instead, there's some lady. Did you notice the lady at the grocery store just like fingering the salad bar off to the side?
She's just an extra standing there going, when is Kevin Bacon going to talk about his balls so I can react?
Yeah.
I guess I should just play with the food that's near me in the meantime.
It's very random. I was like,
it is
what
very
is that
random.
lady doing?
And this is another part in this movie where she's basically talking about how they need a sample from him to check. And she's like, it's not a big deal, right? There's a movie. I could be getting the name of it wrong. It's with Billy Crystal, and it's called, I don't know, We'll Always Have Paris or something like that. There's a scene where he is at a doctor's office and they need a sample. Mm-hmm. And it's legitimately funny because they give him like porn videos.
Oh, yeah.
And nothing's working. And so he has to be like, can I go home and do this in the comfort of my home and then like bring it back? And they're like, yeah, but you have limited time before the sample goes bad.
Right.
And he like goes home and does it and then like misses a cab. Like, it's genuinely funny. And this movie has a chance to do something here and just fumbles it. Mm-hmm. It's so dumb because it's just like he walks into his clinic and he's like, here's my sample, Lily Taylor, who's uncredited in this movie, but is an actual actress.
She is, yeah.
Yes. And then we get inside his dumb brain again, and they all laugh at him, and then he leaves.
Yep.
Great. Way to go, John Hughes. Hilarious.
Yeah, that missed it. That missed it for me. I do like this. This kind of made me laugh. So now he's down in his little basement. I don't know, man cave, throwing darts, and again depressed. He's just depressed. He's not interacting with her. He's not with her. She's upstairs reading pamphlets and taking her temperature, and she starts screaming for him. I'm the right temperature. Come up here. Yep. Screaming for him, and I like it. She's screaming out of the top of her lungs again, and she turns and he's right there. And she's like, all right, I got it all ready for you. I've got the pillows set up. I've got the TV on in case you get bored. I've got, she toasts him with these little drinks. Like, she's all ready for them. And then I don't know, because he knows the position that he's got to lay in, and it's like in a weird, and then she gets like, I mean, so is she taking his sperm and just injecting
I don't know what. Thank you.
Because she
for
has
asking.
like
a turkey baster.
Yes.
I don't know what she's doing. I don't know what's going on, because I prematurely in my notes was kind of excited about this, because I wrote like, you're telling me that I can have sex with Elizabeth McGovern, drink wine, and watch TV at the same time?
What a fun
this
little
all sounds
adventure.
great.
Yeah.
And then she pulls out a turkey baster, and I'm like, what's the plan here? What do the pillows have to do with anything? Are you sticking that into him?
I'm very...
Because that seems very painful.
Seems like an extra step that's unnecessary. Like,
everything else about this scenario is, again, things we've seen
like
in sitcoms
dreamy,
time and time again, except the addition of the turkey baster.
Yeah, I didn't understand. I was like, what is happening there?
Okay, good.
Yeah, Alec Baldwin's back, right?
Alec Baldwin comes back because the only reason anybody would come to Chicago is if family dies.
Oh, right. That's your reason.
Yes, exactly. And he's really, like, he's legitimately acting well because he shows up and seems distressed.
Yeah.
And we've watched a movie about people that have conflict and should be upset with one another, and I'm not buying it. And the moment he shows up and looks really teary-eyed about his father, I'm like,
really tore up.
Oh, okay, this is actually pretty good now.
Yeah.
I'm feeling something for a moment.
Well, and they have compassion for him. She takes compassion on him. She talks to him and saying, I'm so sorry about, and we miss you.
Right.
And, we've been friends for so long. And this is when he creepily makes a move on her, tries to kiss her, or I don't know, to touch her inappropriately. And she's like, no. I mean, I said I love you, but I meant it as a friend. And I won't tell your best friend about this, but because you have, I think she says, because you do have some good qualities. But, and this is when he's like, he says, you're the only woman I've ever loved. And she's like, no, you're the only one you've ever loved. Pretty good.
Again, so much confusion here, because I just remembered something that he says here, because we were talking about, well, maybe they had like some weird like one-off fling or whatever at some point, which would totally make sense. But at this point he says, haven't you always been curious what it would be like? I'm like, wait, you haven't done anything then.
No, I think it's just because he's that kind of guy, that charismatic rather.
But then how is she the only person he's ever loved? Like, what is that about?
Because he's just,
he's just
know.
saying it. You're saying, okay,
yeah.
all right, okay.
And thinking
Also,
that she'll swoon for it, and she doesn't, which I love. Yeah.
Yeah. I also found out that we have now, during this scene, been introduced to a very large and very distracting Lolita poster that hangs around
in his office or his little writing room. Yeah.
And that's another thing. And listen, I like the movie.
Oops, sorry.
I like the movie Lolita.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like a giant Lolita, a movie about two guys fucking basically a child. Like, I don't know if this is what you want your husband to.
You're not showing me that you're a good, upstanding guy, Kevin Bacon.
Right? Yes.
I was remembering this was a conversation the lawnmower neighbor friends were having with him when they were like, hey, what are you doing up there with your hands every night? We see you there and you're doing these weird things with your hands. What are you doing up there? He's like, I'm writing a novel. Anyway, I just remember
which I thought that was going to be a joke. Like, I thought it was going to be like hey, you and that wife, sometimes I see you guys up there.
Yeah, and you're doing like,
I was really
what
ready
kind of
for
moves
that.
are you putting on her? Yeah.
But I was like, wait, you don't know what typing looks like?
I know. Or what
really
kind of typing are you doing, Kevin Bacon? Like,
like a Frankenstein typing.
I don't know. Anyway, that was a little side.
That's crazy. So, oh my God. Can we talk about the fact that he goes to work? Why we had this for 2 seconds in this movie, I will never understand. He goes to work and the receptionist is like, "Hey, your wife called. She wants you to meet her at the library or the museum."
The secretary says, Mrs. Briggs called, and he says, "My mom?" And she goes, "No, your wife."
I'm like, is this the first time she's ever called you work?
I'm like, you've been married for like 4 or 5 years at this point. You're not used to her being Mrs. Briggs.
This movie, this character's a maniac. And he's like, "All right, I guess I'll meet her at the museum." And then he stares longingly at a picture of Michael Jordan.
Yeah. Who's looking slyly back at him. I know.
Why we have to cut to a shot of Michael Jordan staring, like you said, saucily at Kevin Bacon makes no sense. Because he's also like drinking something from a straw in the picture.
Kevin Bacon, go ahead.
No, it's just like, John Hughes, you've already mentioned Chicago 47 times.
Yeah.
We know it's Chicago.
We got it.
Even in like the movie I love, Home Alone, I love it so much. But even like in that, we know it's in Chicago. But Kevin McAllister has to cut out a big picture of Michael Jordan and put it on that train to go around and to fool the wet bandits. And I'm like, I get it. Like, I know you love your city, but come on, man.
I know. But maybe it's his thing. He's going to have Michael Jordan a little bit in each. I'm not
God.
Sure.
Oh, my God.
I don't know if that's a thing.
Michael Jordan was not in 16 Candles,
was
right?
he? But was he a thing then?
Oh, you're right. He might not have been.
But every time Michael Jordan was a thing, was he featured?
He might have still been. Yeah, he might have still been in college. I don't know. You know what I realized? Not to go off on a tangent. I think we need to do a sports movie at some point. I don't think we've done a sports movie.
Well, if you count like that one running one where they're lesbians.
Which I do. I count that.
And if you count the karate movies
in running shorts, I am like, this is a sports movie.
I'm talking about sports here. They do go to the Olympics.
That was called Personal Best.
Oh, okay.
You know, when you're hanging around, you know, the water cooler at the office and you're trying to make conversation. Now you know when somebody says,
what to bring up.
"What was that lesbian Olympic movie?" You'd be like, "Oh yeah,
I'll be on the tip of my tongue.
I'll
be ready."
Best. Close. With that hair, Eric Roberts could have been mistaken for a lesbian.
Pretty lesbian. He is. That Eric Roberts. I was wanting some Eric Roberts in this movie just to come creepily out and make a move on Elizabeth Montgomery.
First of all, better movie, suddenly.
Yeah, I agree. But anyway, so Mrs. Briggs wants to meet him at the Natural History Museum. He's got a Michael Jordan inspired thought in his head. You could tell that, like, well, what if it's the foreign lady and she wants to meet me, and that's what it is. But when he does meet
Michael, take it to the hole.
Just take it. What he does, it is his wife, and she lets him know that they're pregnant. And again, he doesn't look as excited as she does.
No, this is important because she wants to meet at the museum by this pool.
And again,
this little fountain.
Is this an important thing to them? Because as far as we knew, it was important to... Right.
It's only important to Kevin Bacon and this mystery French woman.
Yep.
Which is the weirdest thing about this, because he seems very nervous, like, oh my God, she wanted to meet me here. I guess she must have seen me with some French woman. Knows
he
all
thinks he's
about
caught.
it.
Yeah.
And you're right. Like, it's not even like she says something like, do you remember when we came here when we were first dating? No, nothing to that. It's just like, I wanted to tell you myself. Let's forget where we are or what this even means now that you're thinking about a French woman. I'm going to have a baby
She
now.
says, I didn't want to tell you on the phone. I needed to tell you in person. So here we go. And now we take a Lamaze class together, and we have a little montage of, like you said, of a body double putting on a bra as her boobs are getting bigger, her belly getting bigger. He's folding underwear that starts out small and keeps growing. And we go through a quick pregnancy for the most part. Because it's all montaged.
Can we have him, like, putting this underwear on? Like, is that asking too much for it to be a funny scene? Like, just something, anything?
No.
He puts it on his head and she walks in. Her son, just give me anything to hold on to. I know we're late in this movie. I know now finally there's a baby at some point in this movie.
There's gonna
Spoiler,
be one, right.
There's not really a baby in this movie.
Right, yeah.
I mean, I know there is at the very end. He's holding a baby for
but that's not
5
if you're
seconds.
coming here for the baby and the whole story of no.
Yeah, but I was like, that looks
like
like the baby that you were sitting with those diapers. So
Yeah.
I'm not even convinced it's a different baby.
She is pregnant, and throughout her pregnancy, he seems to be still writing whatever he's writing, and we do get a goofy little, it's time, and then he packs the car haphazardly, drives away without her. Gets to
I feel like I've seen this on the Cosby Show or something. Like
he gets to. This is a cute little interaction where he's trying to time her contractions, and she's looking at her focal point or whatever, and it's.
I did kind of like that,
Mm-hmm.
where he's like, we need to come up with some sort of signal. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Grab my arm. Yeah, you can squeeze my arm.
Meanwhile, she's just breathing her contractions out and having a harder time.
And which makes me think, like, I'm not saying it's his fault, even though I've been saying it's his fault. I'm not saying that it's John Hughes' fault, even though I've been saying it's his fault. But like it appears that he and her are able to do this together. Like they have these brief moments, but they're never together enough. And if they are, they're yelling at each other.
They're never together happy. They're not allowed to have this. And you're right. This is a sign that they have a nice little comedic chemistry that they could conjure up.
I like that she gets wheeled away to a different room to have this baby, and then he's alone in the room. And I love how we actually see the nurses
watching him on the video
and laughing. And I'm like, oh, maybe all of his insecurities are justified.
Yeah.
Like maybe everyone has been laughing at him.
Well, he is a little weird. I mean, he makes the bed, but then he lays on the edge of the bed and pretending to be in the Lamaze class.
He pretends that he's having a baby himself.
It's weird. In the meantime, the baby is breech, and there's some danger. They go to get him. Here's a little goofy thing. They give him the scrubs to put on, and he starts getting totally naked. The nurse has to be like, the scrubs go on over your clothes. When the nurse tries to take him back to help with delivery, he's like pushed away, and it was so funny. So Barrett, for most of this movie, Barrett was like...
This is funny? I'm sorry, go ahead.
For most of this movie, Barrett was like, I'm not, was just like half watching it, and then at a certain point he was like, I think maybe when Alec Baldwin came back, he's like, all right, I'm going to bed. They never had anything going on. Forget this movie. But he came back out because he's like, what's happening to her? Because Kevin Bacon yells, she's my wife. Let me see my wife. So Barrett comes out of the bedroom and is like, what's happening? What's going on? And then within a minute, he was like, oh, fuck this guy.
I mean, this movie gets insanely serious.
Yes,
in no
literally
time.
Tears and blood dripping and sad family. And did you see that waiting room they were in at the hospital? What is that? It was not a hospital waiting room
that looks like a waiting room from some futuristic, like Brazil type movie, like a dystopian.
It was like from an art gallery. They were like sitting in the waiting room of some weird art gallery. Yeah.
There are like spotlights in 4 areas of this room, and he's not sitting with the rest of his family. They're huddled in one corner. He's alone in another, and
he's just having a flashback of all the good times we never saw.
Oh, God. All these scenes that got cut from this movie where I'm like, oh, when were they painting the house? It looks adorable.
I know, when they got locked out on the rainy day and they were like, oh.
God. Could you imagine watching that? Could you imagine watching these two have any sort of relationship before this?
I mean, you're like, oh, so I see. Maybe he does care for her. And he's crying and there's blood dripping and she's got an oxygen mask on. And you're like, oh my God, what is happening to this movie now?
Yeah, exactly. What kind of turn did this movie take?
And then they take him back. They say, okay, you can see your wife.
Right.
We don't know. And he stands at the door awkwardly too. I'm like,
so long. She even says, like, she waves him in and he still stands there.
Yeah, like afraid to, I don't know. And then she tells him, we have a boy. It's a boy, and yeah, and it's okay. And
Yep.
yeah, they have a little scene of the three of them together in bed.
In a better movie, this scene would have done something.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
it is
wait. We're not quite
so
at the end.
emotional, and they finally have some sort of bond, and they seem legitimately relieved and happy for the first time in this movie. And maybe that's the point. Maybe that's the whole
Right.
point of this movie, is that a baby is the greatest thing that you could ever
Save the
do with
relationship,
your
yeah.
life, and everything else is worthless garbage. But I'm like, I don't care about any of this at this point. I really don't. And it's way too little, way too late.
Yeah. Yeah. I forgot. The ending isn't just that they're a happy family with the baby. The ending is
Oh.
that he finishes his titular book
Oh, God.
called She's Having a Baby.
I loved it because I looked at it and I went, did he write this movie?
Yeah.
Did
yeah.
this
Is
turn
this just the writing
into
of
a
the movie? Yeah.
screenplay?
Ah, jeez.
Jamie, please tell me you watched the credits. Please, please,
No,
please.
no, I didn't. I didn't.
No!
I was over it. No. Why? What happens?
All right, do you still have like the 24-hour rental
I'm
or
sure.
48 hour? Holy shit, Jamie, watch the fucking credits.
How are the
Jamie?
ending credits more interesting than the opening
Oh,
credits?
Jamie, do you want to see John Candy? Do you want to see Dan Aykroyd?
How did they get involved?
Oh, do you want to see Ted Danson?
Why are they there?
They're all there just saying baby names. It is amazing. It's like he
That's the best
wandered
part.
onto the lot of NBC and ABC and all of his movies that he was making at the time, because all the actors, Matthew Broderick's in it,
And they
everybody's
just
there.
say baby names?
They say baby. They're trying to name this baby.
Oh,
And
my
they're saying
goodness.
goofy names, and they're saying real names, and it's all people that have been in his movies dressed as their characters, credited on IMDb as their character
Characters.
names.
How funny.
Yes.
I wonder if this really was written, like if he wrote it when he was having his first kid, and then he had
Yeah.
all of this was like some sort of parallel to when he did
Yeah.
have his first kid.
We spent forever, because you know that he was making The Great Outdoors during this.
Oh, okay.
We spent forever with Dan Aykroyd and John Candy.
I would
They're-
have enjoyed this.
Yes, you really should watch it.
All right.
It's legitimately funny. I was glad I stuck around and it takes like 20 seconds
I'll
to get
take
into
those
it.
20 seconds.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
No, I
it's,
didn't,
It's
and now
really
I'm
worth
so
it.
disappointed. All right.
Uh-huh.
Because it would have made me like this movie. Because in the end, did you
They
like
would
this
not have
movie?
made you like that. I watched it and I don't like this movie. No, I don't like this movie. I don't recommend this movie.
No.
I am really souring on the works of John Hughes.
Yeah, you are.
I understand he's an icon. I know that I might be a little bit too young. Like, I think that's one of the things. I think I'm like 5 years too young. Like, when
To
he was
really
making movies
relate.
about high schoolers, I was still in elementary school.
Right.
So I didn't see these till later. And most, if not all of these, I haven't seen until now. So I don't have that nostalgia for them. Yeah, this was... I think this was the worst.
No, the worst. And
No, not the worst movie we've seen.
No, but the
like,
worst John Hughes you've
yeah,
covered.
I would watch 16 Candles before this. There was enough humor in that movie. I can get past the rapey shit and all the, all that stuff. And I could even, for as creepy as Some Kind of Wonderful is, Leah Thompson was pretty good in it.
Yeah.
And like, who was it? Eric Stoltz? I don't even know if it was
I
Eric
don't
Stoltz in
remember.
it, but that had some charm to it. This has no charm. There's no charisma unless Alec Baldwin is on screen. This has nothing. I hated this movie. I
You
really
didn't
did.
like it. You didn't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't either. I'd seen it and I liked it, I think, when I saw it, but I think it was because I was a dumb, impressionable kid then. But
Yeah.
or I don't know that I necessarily liked it when I saw it, but I didn't like it now. So.
Okay.
So there's that.
Yeah. What a dud. I
Yeah.
still can't.
And I
don't
think
know.
I had a little more, I was remembering, like I said, a hodgepodge of other movies, and I think 9 Months was involved in that.
Yeah.
I think, so for my recommendation, do you have
Oh,
a
yeah, go ahead.
recommendation? What's yours? Do you have a
No.
recommendation?
You just started to say what yours was.
Well,
Go ahead.
Because I actually have, I'd have never seen these two, but they are two other movies about having a baby that I think are probably better than this movie about having a baby.
Okay. If I've seen them, I will let you know if they're better or not. Yeah, go ahead.
I haven't seen the Baby Mama movie with Tina Fey and Amy Poehler.
Oh, it's better.
It's
yeah,
better.
It's better.
It's better. Okay. And then this, I just literally Googled like movies about having a baby because I was like, what have I seen? And what, this looked the cute cast, that John Krasinski and Maya Rudolph, Away We Go.
Haven't seen it. Great movie poster. I
Yeah,
love the poster.
cute movie
it's like
poster.
An illustrative movie poster. It's really cool. Yeah.
When you read the little bio or the little info about it, it's a couple they kind of go on a little tour to find out where's a great place to live, to raise their baby. I was like, oh, that could have been an interesting little take. Both of those seem like better having a baby movies than this. And I haven't seen them, but they seem like they would be.
Your idea for recommendations is, well, anything could be better than this, so I don't know.
I literally Googled other things, and I was like, I don't know. Watching an actual video from the 80s about how babies are made is probably better than this.
One of those movies they show you during
like the
Lamaze
sex education
class or
movies. Yeah.
Sure. Yes.
I'll take
that would
it.
be... It might be better than watching this.
Please
We're really
tell me.
beating up this movie, but I think it deserves it.
It does.
Misguided all over. Like, this is a movie that I thought might be funny or maybe emotional. It was neither, and I was shocked by that. I'm so surprised and kind of happy you brought up Amy Poehler. Hey, did you know Amy Poehler was a director?
Yeah.
Oh, you knew that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I had no idea that she had directed anything. And I watched a documentary that she directed called Lucy and Desi.
Oh, yeah.
About Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz.
Yeah.
And I was interested to watch it because I watched... Holy shit, Jamie. I watched Being the Ricardos. What a pile of garbage that movie was.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
I know. I didn't even get through the whole thing. It made me so sad.
Wow.
Same
I
here.
was shocked by that.
And again,
like,
that was
I
another
like
one.
Nicole Kidman. That was a terrible performance.
And this is like America's comedy queen, and this movie was not funny at all.
It wasn't funny. It wasn't interesting.
No.
They tried to cram like 8 different plot lines into a single movie and pretend it all happened during 1 week of this show.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it.
I didn't watch the whole thing. We couldn't get through it.
I'm glad you didn't.
Yeah.
Hey, guess who turns out to be the hero of the movie in the end? J. Edgar Hoover.
Oh.
Did you see that happening?
Not at all.
No,
Not
that
at all.
creepy asshole is the hero of this movie. It's so dumb.
Oh.
But then, after I watched that and was vomiting, Amazon said I should watch this documentary. It's delightful because it's just old footage of them and interviews from family and friends.
So I'll watch that instead.
Yes.
Okay.
First of all, it's like 40 minutes shorter.
Much better.
And it's really, really good. So if people have not seen Being the Ricardos, please don't watch it.
Is that your recommendation from this movie? Is the documentary by Amy Poehler?
Yeah.
I love it. Nicely
because
done.
There are a couple that had, their ups and downs, like this couple did. But boy, they actually have an interesting story to tell.
Like this couple did not.
Right,
Well,
exactly.
Fair to say she's having a baby. We're not having it. We are not having it.
Nope. No more babies for us.
No.
All right. So
Now we're going
our
on to
next
mamas.
episode, next episode is going to come out on April Fool's Day, and we're not doing anything funny. We're not doing a comedy. First of all, Jamie, because I thought this movie we just watched was going to be a comedy, which it wasn't, and 4 weeks from now we're going to do a comedy. So I did not schedule a comedy for our next episode. But we are, strangely enough, going to stay on this baby train because we're covering another movie. It doesn't have anything to do with babies, but the word babies is in the title. We're going to be talking about Solar Babies.
Oh.
It's a movie starring Jamie Gertz and Jason Patrick. A movie that is not Lost Boys. And April is Physical Fitness Month. And I can't think of a better workout than rollerblading everywhere you go, which is
there
what the
you have
characters in this movie do. So that's going to be what we talk about next time in 2 weeks. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we will see you again in 2 weeks' time.
Bye-bye.
Many a tear has to fall. It's all again. Life is a wonderful game. We play and play. You have words within. Happy and sad and sweet as words. Oh yeah. Once in a while he won't come. It's all.
You can watch TV if you get bored.
Okay.
All right, ready? Dream a little
Yeah.
dream.
I mean, that's a great movie. That's one of our best, even though we lost the podcast. Isn't that the episode that we
No,
lost?
oh God, this is already a mess. We lost License to Drive. Dream a Little Dream was a movie you and I both hated so much.